Hello and welcome to episode 89 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me as ever is Neil.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, Neil. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Yeah, I'm good. Before we go anywhere, of course, we have to mention our sponsors, Element Games. So, at time of recording, we've got Shadespire on pre-release, and I'll be ordering mine. And we got the Ideneth Deep King coming on the 14th, so just before this releases. I'm sure there's going to be more 40k stuff coming soon, and all kinds of groovy. There's all that I said, Star Wars Legion stuff all's in there. There's some other big games coming out as well. There's so many other games now that I can't keep up. But you can go to Element and, let's say, extra 5% off on that pre-order week and fast service. That stuff is usually with me, certainly by the Saturday that it comes out. And no complaints at all.
Free sweets as well.
Free sweets and a pen.
And a pen.
Always useful for something to suck on and a pen. It's all good. Yeah. Element, keep cracking it out. And if you're up that way, there you can check out their gaming centre. They've got regular events going on, whether it's the Friday Night Magic or miniature events or board games, what have you. It's all kicking off up there, which is groovy. So, Neil, we are recording this a little bit earlier than normal because the house move falls right in the middle of kind of the recording period that we have. So we've had to jump this forwards. Have you been doing any hobby?
A little bit of hobby. Yeah, I did another hobby night with my friend Matt to try and get his army ready for London Heresy. So did a bit with him on a Thursday night. Yeah, it just he comes around. It's quite nice, really, because it can be very lonely when you just sort of sit in your little hobby room and
That's
paint.
why I like it. No one near me.
Oh, no, don't go wrong. That's how I like it. But, it's nice when someone comes along and you have a chat and you can just talk about hobby stuff. And, so yeah, he's been coming over most Thursdays and we've been having a little bit of a painting session. And we were doing some custodes with the Taro technique that we spoke about in the last episode. So, yeah, it's funny because every time I'd say something, I thought, have you tried this? Or have you done this? And I was like, I was showing him the aqua brushes and bits, and it works a treat, I must say. It was, I started, I thought, this is a great time to try it out. He'd sprayed them all, Retributor. Yep. And he was like, I need to apply this wash. And he had like a big line of them in front of him. I said, have you tried this out? And he said, no. So we opened one up, put a load of wash in there. And he sat there with a brush and a pot with a couple of custodes. And I was there with the aqua pen. And I was just literally going, I think I'm doing this twice as quickly as you are. Because it was literally, I was not stopping to
reload,
refill. And, it was just go all the way. And then I sort of said to him, like, you have a go. And he was like, this is brilliant. He ordered some aqua pens right then and there on Amazon. And then when he went off for the evening, he said, can I borrow the aqua pen? So he took it home with him, filled up with wash, so he could carry on. Yeah. So it is a really handy tool and technique. And I had a message from Taro on Instagram, and he was just talking about the podcast and bits and pieces. And he did mention that he's found that you can wash them out quite easily, putting water through them and just wash the bristles out. And I asked him how long you could keep the wash in the brush for. Yeah. So he said that over a period of time, that wash in the bristles will dry out a bit because it's a synthetic brush. You can just literally massage that out and wash it out and it's good to go again. So I think they're cheap, but I think they have got a bit of, you don't have to worry about throwing them away after,
Do they have lids?
You use them. They do, yeah. They've got little pen lids.
That's good.
So I think they're quite a cool little, I think if you're doing an army, it's a great little time saver. Yeah, anything where you can cut the things down in time and make things quicker, that's what it's all about with army painting. So
Custodes are built for it, really.
That was it.
What were you using? Reeklund Flesh Shade?
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah. Yes, that's just such a simple thing to do. Spray the model gold. Just you've done 90% of the model, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen those. The brushes appearing on Facebook posts now as well. So it's spreading, and as soon as we're in the new house, I'm ordering a few ready for when I get my custodies out.
Isn't it weird that it's something that's been around a while, but then suddenly everyone goes, oh wow, yes, a few people mention it, and then it spreads.
Yeah, I still need to go and have a look in the old makeup departments for some of those really soft bristle brushes. The big.
Yes,
wide.
like the big ones we spoke about before about dry brush.
Yeah, so I still need to go and do that for certain things. But once we're in the new place, I can actually kind of organise my hobby area a little bit better. So I'll be able to have tools in their own place, kind of thing. So
yes,
that'll be good. Yeah, but no, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, and as I say, with custodies, I can just imagine build them all, spray them all, wash them all, and the bulk of your painting is done.
Exactly. Yeah, it's another one that it's quite cool because you can just literally that stage of getting that wash applied is then cut down in time. You could probably do it in an hour, or if you've got a lot to do. And the other thing we were talking about is those brushes come in some different sizes. I bought like a varied size pack, so a small, medium, large, and then a big flat-headed version. Yeah. And I did think if you were doing a tank, then that big flat-headed version could be quite handy as well, because you might get a nice coverage with it, rather than lots and lots of going over it with a small brush. So something else to try out as well.
Yeah, well, I'll have to let you know when I get started on the big tank. Yeah. One day. I've got the May deadline coming up, and obviously had to pack away my stuff I was painting on, ready for the move, but have got like the first layer down on all the block colours, so it's like, finally progress. And at work, I managed to find some time. My second wave of my Kingdom Death order came, so I put together.
That big dragon.
That's the big dragon. Yeah, yeah. It's a fantastic model.
Does look cool.
Yeah, Kingdom Death's. It's a horror game basically. So fantasy horror, and that dragon has some weird things going on with it. It's not as weird as some of the beasties that are found in the rest of the game, but it's a big model. We're talking 8 inches tall, something like that at the top. Oh. And the design process, it's the model fits together okay. If it was a miniatures game per se, and if I was going to be cracking that dragon out a lot more, I'd think maybe about filling all the gaps, but there are some small gaps on the model. But I'm like, you know what, I can't justify doing that. I'm getting a friend to paint all my Kingdom Death stuff for me, so it's ready. So I want to play it painted. So he's doing. Right. That's a mate at the club, so that's reasonably priced kind of stuff, rather than getting it professionally done. And he does a good job, so that's cool. So cracking on with that, and then as I say, hopefully sorting my stuff all out in the new place, which will be fun.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's always recently my mantra has been having a difficult painting session, tidy up the hobby room or tidy up my office. So it's nice when you can get everything in its rightful place and sort of get some good hobby time in as well.
Yeah, definitely. So and then all the other projects all start to press on my time. You know how it is. There's always something else.
Yeah, there's always something else to do.
Too right, especially when you're playing more than one system. But I've got my Forge Bane sitting there and everything else. But that'll be cool to crack on with. Okay, we should probably talk. So I say it's only been a week or so since the last recording, the last episode, but we have had the Termite released.
Yes.
Well, I say reasonably priced. I think the price was fairly reasonable.
Do you know what? I didn't check the price out. How much did it come out to?
So it's £75, which it's not bad. When you look
it's a big lump of resin. It is quite a substantial bit of kit. And this if you want 5 or 6 of them in your army, then it's going to hurt your wallet. But
there are lots of cases where that is the case, and that's the nature of the beast of what we're doing. And obviously, you don't have a plastic version of it, so you can't go cheaper like you can with a lot of the other tanks that we can utilise. But it is more luckily it's more points than a Rhino. It does extra stuff. So basically, when it comes out of the ground, you actually put the large blast template down on the table, and you scatter it, and essentially it works like a drop pod in that if you go onto terrain and whatever, you pull it back to the nearest point. I think I'm getting this right, but you put it back to the nearest point. But if that template covers any units or combats, then those units or the combat itself will take a number of hits, things like that. So that's quite good. So it does a bit of damage when it comes out, which is cool. And then it delivers, up to 12 models. And it also has, so it's got its own rules, but it works like the drop pod in that some can come up at the start of turn one. So not drop pod assault, but a very similar working mechanism. Yeah, and it's done. It says specifically, this, do not count these towards how many drop pods you put in, because it does share the deep strike rule, which actually I think.
So does that mean if you say got 4 drop pods and 4 termites, that you could bring 2 of them, or 2 drop pods, 2 termites on turn 1?
So yes, the subterranean assault rule is essentially the same drop pod rule, but for subterranean assault vehicles. So yes, 2 drop pods out of 4, 2 termites out of 4. You can play the system as well. So obviously 1 or 3 gives you the best kind of ratio if you want that alpha strike.
Yeah, definitely.
The beauty of these is they can carry 12 models, so you can bring in your 10 model squad plus whichever leader you need with them, that kind of jobby. Of course, so it's a subterranean assault. I'm a bit disappointed they utilise the word deep strike within it, and maybe there's a balance reason for it. Maybe across the whole of the army that becomes an issue, but it means that certain right of wars are then banned from taking them. Where that
right, yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, and it might be the case that for some of them that's right, but for some of the others, you wonder if it really warrants it. But without maybe an overhaul of like those rights of war, then that wouldn't work, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah. So I mean, but maybe that's a way of because often there's power in those words, isn't there? So. Giving it deep strike then can confer different things if they later on change what deep strike means or how deep strike works.
Yeah.
So I can see why. Yeah, I can see why they've probably done it. It's but it sounds very interesting. I think it's going to be another one of those ones where people will look to manipulate it and find ways of making very efficient use of the rules and the points, as they always do.
Yeah, I mean it's got a few things. So. It can never move faster than combat speed, and it can't move flat out. It's not a quick assault vehicle. It's a crawling advance, as they call it. And additionally, in essence, because of that and because of the way it works, it ignores difficult and dangerous terrain, which is quite cool. And adds 2 strength when making ramming attacks against fortifications. Because that happens a lot, but no, that's a cool rule.
I do love it when they put a rule in there, and you think, how many times have people actually had to do that?
Yeah, but it's cool. It's cool that it's there. It's like the old. They had all the rhinos and that were amphibious vehicles, weren't they?
Yes,
chimeras and that have never played a thing. It's like, oh, there's water on this table. I can move. Yeah, everyone can move across it. It's just easier that way. Oh, okay. Yeah. But it means you can actually play a scenario where you do have deep water and things like that.
Yes, I suppose if you're writing those really themed campaigns and you want to play something, you can sort of put something in there so that that rule is utilised.
Absolutely. If you're doing a siege game, if you're going to have a siege scenario, and you want a couple of these in to destroy the walls, that's awesome. They're coming in so first off, you can't carry anything bulky in there, so it's basically power armor. Well, I should say, so this is basically available to everyone in Heresy, but not everyone in 40k. Mechanicum can't have them in 40k, which has annoyed a few people, but bless them. So you're looking at termites, their fast attack choices. which is an interesting one. And front armor 12, 12, 10, 3 hull points. They're not bad.
They look cool. They sound quite cool, and I think that I think we're going to see armies with them in. It's just going to be
big time.
I'm waiting to go to the London Heresy, which would probably be my first sort of tournament or game scene, if you know what I mean, to go and see people's armies in a long time. And I'm hoping that we see some crazy sort of all termite army, or I love it when people have a really good theme. And it's they're trying to tell a story.
Absolutely.
And you see someone that's going, I bought 10 of them because this force is all they do is dig around on this moon, and they've been attacked and they've come up from that's cool. Yeah. And you go, wow, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah, them fitting in the fast attack choice might be a real limiting factor. Fast attack, usually for most armies, is not the most utilised segment of the army, but the fact you're limited then to 3 as fast attack choices is, it is what it is at the end of the day, but that will limit how many people have. Just seeing you can give them Armoured Ceramite for 20 points as well, so for 100 points they're Armoured Ceramite, which is cool. I don't know how effective that is per se in game. Once they've dropped their troops off, they can't move that quickly. Yeah, but it's good. It's cool, and it makes sense. Are people that worried about them that they're going to shoot them with a melter? Well, it depends. I mean, if you then put a troop unit back into them after the turn they arrive, or what have you, or you don't quite land where you want to land, so you keep your troops in. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to have that option. Sometimes it's just nice to have that. Oh, I've got to spare 20 points. I'll throw that on there.
Yes, yeah. I am a big fan of Armoured Ceramite, but that's because my forces have often involved land raiders and things high armour value that you don't want melted. So,
and to be honest, a lot of people's anti-tank is just melter based. So that's
it's also. I think the thing is, melter is a very cheap and effective way of getting a bit of anti-tank in a force, isn't it? You stick some melter guns in a unit, or someone's got combi melters on their Terminators, or a combi melter on a character, and then suddenly that's a little extra punch that they can do if they come up against a tank, but you don't want your Spartan getting one-shotted by a combi melter. So paying those extra points is essential, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, personally, I think a lot of these are going to be used for dropping off a 10-man plasma squad. That kind of thing. That first strike unit, which will, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You've got to be a bit careful when they're playing with that kind of squad with a termite, that you're going to be dealing with that turn 1.
Does
be aware.
I can't remember the name of the drop pod now, the Ambulus pattern.
Yeah.
Does that not do a better job than the termite?
It's a lot more points.
Is it more points? Okay,
yeah, I think so. I mean, who knows, right? Do lots of things, do lots of better jobs than other things, but it's cool. It gives you the opportunity to have one Dreadnought and one Termite in an army, and have those two appear immediately. There is that aspect of it.
Do you have to it's not an auto disembark vehicle, is it, when you turn up?
No, it's just a deep strike. I mean, the one big disadvantage between this and something that can drop in flying is that if someone intercepts this, it's on the floor. But, whatever. Yeah, it's the same as a drop pod at the end of the day, isn't it? Same as a normal drop pod at the end of the day. So it's not a major issue. It hasn't got all the special rules around it, but an Ambulus is a chunk of resin, costly, and points and money. So it's cool. And I think the immediate reaction was a lot of people aren't buying this for the rules because they didn't know what the rules were. They saw it. It reminded them of Epic. It reminded them of stories they've read and all that. And it looks funky.
Oh, it definitely looks cool. I mean, I love the look of it. That's what I'm saying. I think I could really see some cool armies where they've got a load of them and, squads pouring out of them and all this sort of stuff. But it'll be interesting to see if there's any people that find some really horrible combination that they want to play with them, and people start getting upset, as they usually do.
I'm absolutely certain there is going to be the odd time where a termite coming out of the ground does exactly the right damage on something, followed up by a squad shooting at it, that people are going to get salty, because that happens, But it'll be one time in however many. I don't see it's a major issue at the moment. Could be proved wrong, but I really don't think it is yet, which is cool. We should probably move on from that. There was some other big news. So whilst this came out and everyone was talking about the termite, there was some hubbub about the last chance to buy section on Forge World, which included the groups of paints, and that was the only way that Forge World, when you searched, like if you just went onto Forge World and went to Modelling Supplies Paint, they only showed you bundles of paint. You actually had to type in a name of a paint, and then it gave you a page for individual paints, and then you clicked on the different colour swatches for whichever paint you wanted.
Right.
All the bundles were listed as last chance to buy, but when you actually searched for Angron Red, let's use that as an example, it didn't have that on the individual paint things. A number of people phoned Forge World to be confirmed that they are discontinuing the whole range of paints. Now, this has caused some consternation, understandably to a point. I doubt Forge World would have discontinued them if they were making them lots of money, which can only suggest that they weren't selling as well as Forge World would want.
Yeah, I mean, you were the first person that told me about this. I didn't even realise that they'd were discontinuing them, and I do hate it when paints get discontinued, because I remember when GW used to, I remember when we used to, certain Citadel paints got culled, and it was always a case of, but that's my colour for doing this, and it was rush out and go and buy 10 pots of it, and then I don't think I ever used all those pots, but I felt as though I was safe in the knowledge that I had a big stash of whatever colour it was.
Yeah, and I haven't got the huge amount of knowledge of other paint ranges to know whether it's happened with them or not. It doesn't, off the top of my head, I don't recall that it happens as much. But then people like Vallejo are making paints. Games Workshop are making hobby toys, supplies, everything else. So, and we had the big changeover of paints, and that was to do manufacturing and everything else as well. So that was a slightly different thing. It's frustrating.
I do think, do you remember when they released these paints? It was a couple of Horus Heresy weekenders, and they were talking about them in great detail. And they mentioned about how they were formulating them and testing them out and making sure that they were perfect to go through airbrushes, etc. And I remember talking to Phil about them, and he mentioned that while they were testing them out and they created all this range of colours, this was the same time that the Citadel Airs were being developed.
Yeah.
And say for instance, the silver in Citadel Air was basically the one that Forge World had developed for their range.
Right.
And when they'd said, they've obviously spoken to Forge World about them doing their airs, they've pretty much said, well, there's no point you developing that silver. We've got a better silver that we've developed. And they basically ported them over and just said, yeah, we just won't do a silver. And we'll just allow Citadel to make it. So some of those colours were sort of pulled across, anyway, into the Citadel Air range. So I don't quite know what they're going to do. I mean, I know the clears were very popular.
Yeah. So,
and there was also the colour for the
Sons of Horus.
Yeah. Which was like always a mixed job, wasn't it, before? Yeah. So there's a couple of things in there I think people are going to be annoyed that they don't have, but I wouldn't put it past them. Citadel range encompassing some new, because they love bringing out a new colour at the moment. They do love, there's been lots of additions to the Citadel paint range, and I could foresee in the future that they'll drop some extra colours in there to maybe bridge some gaps.
Right, yeah. Citadel have also dropped a couple of paints as well, so we have seen paints disappear from the main line, or just be released as one-offs almost, limited numbers, which is crazy. Frankly, it's a stupid idea. But we have. I don't know if there's a fundamental difference between Games Workshop selling clear paints, which are very different to use from normal airbrush paints. And then are you going to get the support in store to understand how that works? I
found it interesting because they did also often have some of the ranges that you could only order them online. Like, do you remember the Air range was always online for a while, and they did bring it in store. And I think there could be room for them to have them in there, but I suppose it does depend on, again, if they're going to sell. Like, if Forge World couldn't sell the clear or enough of the paints to make them viable, then there's probably not going to be much case for Citadel expanding their range into them.
Well, there's a question for you. Are they not selling because people don't want them? Are they not selling because they're on Forge World's website and not everyone knows about them?
That's true.
Are they not selling because they're not any good? We don't know why. There are, for Clear Red, Tamiya Red is something that's been around a long time that people swear by. That I've been told, why you're buying Forge World 1 by Tamiya. There are differences. I think Tamiya's got some, if you're not aware of what you're doing with that one, it may be not as nice to work with. I'm talking potentially from kind of how it's made as well, like, and what it could do to you if you're spraying that in a small area without ventilation.
Yeah, definitely fast jobs with Tamiya's.
Yeah, absolutely. And Forge World, whenever you're spraying paint, you should be wearing a mask anyway, but maybe slightly kinder to you in that respect. Yeah, and Sons of Horus, as I say, that was the first thing I thought of was, that's a paint that a lot of people liked because they wanted to paint the classical colour and they didn't want to mix it because some of the videos on how to mix that paint are scary, kind of the amount. Did they not do well because of the type of bottles they were in? Not being dropper bottles.
Yeah, that was always a big thing, wasn't it? When they released them, everyone was like, "Why are you putting them in these awful flip tops?" So there are some weird, and I'm sure we'll never get to the bottom of it, but there are some oddities there. But for me, if you're clued up enough and try and get hold of what you need, or you'd probably be able to find an alternative.
Yeah, there were generally alternatives. So, as I say, for the clear paints, Tamiya do a range. The Spirit Stone, I use if I've gone back and made an error and painted, as a small overspill onto some of my clear reds, the ability to just paint it silver and use Spirit Stone red or whatever it is, those colours from Games Workshop as a touch-up, do a job. So that kind of thing can happen. I've seen people paint using Spirit Stone, like whole models, so you can do it that way. Potentially I wouldn't do that myself, but so there are other options in that. I must admit, I messaged someone I know in Forge World, said, "What's going on?" And he went, "I don't know." First I've heard about it. I was like, okay. And I just thought at that moment, my Stormcast, I don't ever really plan on stopping collecting them. And my Knights use the clear blue. And I'm like, I don't know how many Knights I'm going to get in the end, So, yes, I can get alternatives. Or what I can do is stockpile as much as I can now. What's a reasonable amount? Well, you know what? Stuff it. I just want to know. So I ordered 10 of each. And spent a lot of money because again, price they're actually more expensive than a lot of other companies' paints, and you expect that a little bit from Forge World. But
that's the other problem as well with those clears is a lot of people tell me it doesn't go very far. So maybe 10. You say 10 bottles. I was thinking that's a lot. Then maybe actually.
Well, this is it. I ordered 5, and then I thought, stuff it. Let's get 10. I have. To be fair, I've done a lot of painting and gone through only a small amount. But actually, my second thought was, right, when I get the airbrush out, I'm going to be a lot more careful about where I'm putting this paint. Because I want that to last as long as possible. So, I think the Calf Blue will last me. I probably bought too much of that, to be fair. But I don't have to worry. now on that one. Angron Red, if I have bought too much of that, well, that's the one that's been appearing a lot of different places, and I think it's because you've got Thousand Sons and Custodes that use it particularly, and then before even thinking about homegrown colour schemes and things like that. So you've got two armies which use it a lot. So yeah, interesting. But we'll have to see if anything ports over. I'm not 100% sure that GW will pick up any of the line, to be honest. Even you never know, but it seems like the only one that people are really upset about is Angron Red, and I mean people as in more than just Jeff. It's the one that you see people going, "Oh, I missed the chance. Can I buy?" But hey ho, such is life. And the problem is, it will make people think twice about buying anything of that ilk from Forge World again.
Yeah, that's the other problem, isn't it? Because let's face it, a lot of armies are a long-term collection passion, and if you're buying your paints from Forge World or from and they've now been discontinued, you may feel a bit cheated that you haven't been able to complete your collection. So it might if they release something else in the future, it might be a question to be asked. Well, are you just going to stop suddenly? And they'll have to make a call on it. I noticed the Brass Etch as well was up for the last chart.
Yeah, Brass Etch as well. So yeah, again, if you're going to use anything like that, we've had issues with getting hold of transfers. I think it's something they can definitely improve on. If you're going to offer this kind of stuff and then at some point stop it, then people are going to be annoyed because, as you say, they're going to be left halfway through a project.
My only thing with Brass Etch is I've made my own Brass Etch.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll be like, yeah, that is annoying, but do you know what? I could get around that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you are collecting your Night Lord's army and you've got a couple of sheets of Brass Etch, and then suddenly you go to buy a new vehicle and realise you can't stick your big symbols all over it because you haven't got quite enough, that must be a bit frustrating. But I think paints are probably more, in my eyes, more frustrating than a Brass Etch panel. But clearly, they may be culling out some lines that are not selling. And you remember there was always this conversation about a limited number of product lines they can have at any given time.
Yep,
and they used to sort of cull things off and say, they're not going to produce them anymore.
Yeah,
this might be another phase of that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Moving forwards, they might need more space, and who knows. But at the end of the day, if a product is not achieving a price, a value, a profit over time, then as a company they're going to review that. Because if it's just sitting there and not going, then it's dead money. So you can understand that under a business perspective. Unfortunately, their business perspective affects a lot of people's hobby, and that's always gonna those two things don't mesh very well a lot of the time. But there we go. Awesome.
One good thing with the Last Chance to Buy is you can work out the most popular legions.
Yeah.
So with all the Brass Etches, they're all available except for Sons of Horus and Blood Angels. So clearly the two most popular legions.
Obviously, yeah. Something like that. I think
there's a logic there, you see.
There's a logic. I think as a scientific study, we'd need a lot more evidence and a better dissertation on that. But that's
next time I see a Blood Angels army or a Sons of Horus army, I will just go, another one.
Another one. Exactly. Awesome. All right, we'll leave the intro there and we'll come back and we're going to be joined by Michael talking about Heresy Camp. Okay, joining me now we have Michael. This is a different Michael, one from a long way overseas. How are you doing, Michael?
Oh, what's going on? Powerful Greg Dan. Nice to be here.
A pleasure to have you. So before we go anywhere, do you want to introduce yourself? That's probably the best way of doing things.
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Michael Montalongo. I'm out of Texas. I'm with the Radio Free Isstvan podcast. I got my co-host Ryan out of Indiana, my co-host Scott out of Kentucky, and then another co-host Derek, who's in Texas with me as well. So we're like a Horus Heresy United States podcast. We do like a lot of lists and things like that. And man, I'm just the producer, man. Like that's my job. Just make sure everything runs and just kind of keeps everything held together.
Yeah, you heard the cats. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, so obviously, I'm sure plenty of people who listen to Imperial Truth will listen to or are very aware of Radio Free Isstvan. Some others may not. You can go over that, as you say, you do. There's a call-in section with some stories. It's a bit more towards the entertainment side as well. A bit of a mix, isn't it, between entertainment and.
Oh yeah. If I would say, like, if you were like the CNN of podcast or like the BBC of podcast, we'd be like the MTV. Like, it's a little less formal and a lot more off-topic stories that roll into our voicemail that we get.
Yeah, no, it's as I say, but different folks, different strokes and all that, and everyone can get something different out of all the different podcasts. So that's good. And you've been running a while now.
Yeah, so we're on the latest episode we're dropping this week will be episode 98. So that has been 98 weeks of just recording a podcast every week. Man, that's a lot of time. So that's almost at the 2-year mark of recording every week. It's pretty wild. We don't take any breaks either.
Yeah.
My co-host Ryan will not let that happen. So
well, I mean,
they roll through.
There was a small break for Ryan, but let's not talk about that. We absolutely doing a weekly podcast. No, that's why mine's every 2 weeks, pretty much, just for that very reason. So we've got you on because you're doing something a bit different over in that neck of the woods with an event, aren't you? Do you want to outline what's going on?
Sure. So let me break this down for you. Let me throw this line out there, see what you think. So here this year, 2018, September 19th to the 23rd, we've rented out this camp called Camp Aranzanzu in Rockport, Texas. So Rockport, Texas is about an hour south of Corpus Christi. Or I'm sorry, 30 miles south of Corpus Christi, a lot less than an hour. So we've rented out this camp. We're renting out for 5 days. And so inside this camp, I mean, they have this huge, massive hall. They have all of these amenities. They have like a swimming pool. They have like a freshwater fishing pond. It's a coastal town, so all you have to do is cross a bridge, and they've got salt water. The bay is right there.
Cool.
And on this camp, what we've decided is we've gotten all these groups around. We've got the Circle City Gamers, like all of Ryan's guys from Indiana. They're coming down, bringing a whole bunch of tables. We've got the Lone Star Legion guys from Dallas. They're bringing all their tables. We've got the Goalers guys from San Antonio. We have powerful Mike Gupton over at Goldmine Games in Houston. He's bringing a whole bunch of his tables. And we've got all of these tables brought together, and they're all just coming down to this Rockport, Texas camp. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be hosting this 5-day camp where it's 24/7 of gaming. So after talking with the actual camp coordinators, the people who actually own the camp, they don't care what we do on the camp. It's one of those, hey man, if y'all want to game 24/7, if y'all want to start a fire, like a bonfire at 3 a.m, y'all go do what you want to do. We'll just be here to make sure that we keep y'all fed and keep y'all keep the camp experience going for you. So that's what we're hosting. So
cool.
It's the 19th to the 23rd of September. We have a number of events that we have planned. Not like so setting aside the 24/7 gaming, because there's enough tables for you to play at any time. You just get up, go walk with your buddies, and go get a game in. Every day that you're there, we have hobby events in the morning, which range from we have resin casting classes that are set up. We have plastic card conversion classes set up, LED lighting classes, and painting classes from Cult of Paint. And that's going to be Powerful Henry Steele. He'll be hosting a class over there. And so we kind of push the morning as kind of dedicated to all these hobby classes. And plus we know these guys are going to be staying up late, so they're probably going to want to sleep in. And then at night, every day we have some sort of event going on, some sort of scheduled event. Your cost for the admission, so whenever you pay for your ticket up front, everything's covered. So I mean, you've got a 2K Centurion class, a 2K Centurion event. You've got a 3,000 point narrative event. There is a Zone Mortalis event going on. I have an event that I've been talking about on our podcast, which is the Wall event, which I'm super excited for, which is basically just me sitting on this massive wall with 5,000 points of Imperial Fist, and you get to pick with 1,000 points of whatever you want, and you just come play me, and I smash you, but I don't get to reset. And so everybody in the camp gets to keep bringing their 1,000 points in until they whittle that wall down. And then we're going to have like little patches that we're going to give out for each event that you attend. So, you can leave with like the classic Boy Scout, like, I did this, the wall completion badge and stuff like that. So we have a number of events planned out. Every single day we're going to have it there. There's massive barrack-style cabins that are set up there. So when you pay for the ticket, not only are you getting full lodging, you're also getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner supplied for you as well.
Wow.
So the camp's going to take care of all food, and they're also taking care of all lodging. You'll have your own bed, you'll only have your own desk and everything. The exact kind of like summer camp experience that you had as a kid, except now you can be an adult and go experience it and just have 24/7 gaming. Or, you can just have 24/7 hanging out with people who are into the hobby with you as well. Maybe go take them for a stroll on the freshwater pond, or, go rub your feet in the sand. Whatever you want to do. It's just
it's all there for you. It takes dudes looking for dudes to another level. When you can go for a nice walk along the beach at sundown.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm hoping that happens.
So in England, the summer camp experience is not quite as well kind of played out the same way, shall we say, as I'm assuming this is the kind of place we see in all the American films. Yeah. So it's all that. You're not going to get someone in a hockey mask coming around and stabbing you, hopefully, but all that kind of.
We can't assure that. There's no way for us to guarantee that's not going to happen.
No, true.
Just want to throw that out there. There's no way,
especially with podcasters being probably one of them. So, that sounds awesome. So that's, although it's Heresy Camp is the kind of the term you use. It's almost like a Heresy Con. This is it's almost a convention.
Yeah, so it's basically a live convention that you are. I mean, because all the hobby stuff and everything like that, it definitely, when you look at a camp and you look at all the things you learn at camp, like making the macaroni necklace and stuff like that, it's kind of like that, but adult activities. It's like the resin casting class, LED class, everything that you'll go there. I guarantee if you've never played Heresy a day in your life, and you go to this camp, you'll come out like a solid modeler, painter. Like you'll come out just like it'll accelerate you like 2 or 3 years into the hobby.
Okay, so are you one of the brains behind the origin of this idea?
Oh yes, absolutely. So this originally was something that we were hashing out back and forth between me and Ryan, and then of course the Forgotten Legion guys like Zach, Chris, and Josh. Man,
yeah,
it's just one of those things where it's like, man, dude, it'd be cool if we can just get everybody together. We've been to we've had so many Adepticon experiences where you get to spend almost a week straight with these guys that you're just like you get to know really well. You make brand new friends whenever you meet them like that. And we wanted to experience just something like that, where it's like a big con that you stay the night there, you hang out till late in the morning, and just get to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And my first thoughts were, this is like Adepticon but focused for Heresy, which sounds pretty awesome. And with the classes, with skilled people running those classes as well, so you can come out of it learning a lot. I mean, you can choose what you do at the end of the day, with the ticket price being everything. You don't have to.
Yes.
Don't have to worry about overcommitting or undercommitting or anything like that. You can just go and, if you're not feeling particularly well one morning, lay in bed a little bit longer, or what have you. No, that sounds really cool. So this is just remind us where it is again. So Texas.
So this is in Rockport, Texas. It's about a 3-hour drive from Houston. It's about a 30-minute. I know I said hour earlier. It's a 30-minute drive from Corpus. So I mean, really it's not too crazy. We have a shuttle that'll be going back between Houston. If you're going to be flying into Houston, that'll get you. There's a number of people that are United States based that are just driving down.
Sure.
And so it's Camp Aranzanzu in Rockport, Texas. If you want more information on anything, really, you can just go to heresycamp.com or campheresy.com. We got both of them. So we knew somebody would spell one or the other wrong. So Camp Heresy or heresycamp.com.
I think Camp Heresy sounds like a whole different event.
Yeah, it does.
But we'll move on.
You should have seen, like, whenever we first started like booking the venue, she's like, "So what camp is it?" You're like, "Heresy Camp," or like, because we didn't want to say Camp Heresy because heresy's not a word that you just throw around.
Awesome. So 4 days. Was it 4 days?
So yeah, it's 5 days altogether. It's 4 nights. Cool. The 19th to the 23rd. So the way we have it worked out and the way we have it structured is for the pricing. So originally it was just going to be 3 days. We were just going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're out Sunday, you're gone. But then we got a number of requests to have a 5-day event because people wanted to take the full days off. Sure. So we were like, okay, so we'll open it for 5 days. But we offer 2 different tickets, and the event's happening regardless. You have the 5 nights, it's $490, and that's everything included. That's going to be your lodging and your food, 100% included. And then 3 nights is $290, food, lodging, everything included. So like, if you were just to even take the cost of like what you spent for like an Adepticon hotel, this is this is like way cheaper, and you're getting all the classes included. The only thing that we couldn't include is the Cult of Paint class for Henry Steele.
Sure.
Because that's an additional $100 because we did have to get him over here, and so we did have to charge for that class. So if you wanted to take that Cult of Paint class, $100. But I mean, really, when you start looking at the value of you're getting all the other classes and you're getting your lodging and food included, it's going to be a camp experience that hopefully we continue to do for years on end. Yeah, just absolutely. Picking different camps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this will be the first one. This will be the very, very first, I don't want to say trial run because we've run a number of events, but it is going to be something new.
The inaugural.
Yeah, the inaugural,
camp. Yeah. What are the beds like over there? All the bedding provided, everything? You don't have to bring anything for that?
No. So all bedding is provided. As far as I saw, they're full-size beds. They're not your, king, you're not getting a king-size each, but they're full-size beds. I mean, they look really nice. So one thing I will say about the venue itself, about the camp, this is a camp for special needs kids.
Right.
So there's tons and tons of amenities. I mean, everything is concrete, everything is wheelchair accessible, and everything is air conditioned. So all of the amenities you would enjoy as an adult, as a full-grown adult / gamer, which we know kind of, the gamers out there are a little softer than your hardened man who sleeps in tent on ground. So everything that you would imagine has full amenities at this camp. If you go to heresycamp.com, we have tons of pictures of the actual camp itself. Me and Zach with the Forgotten Legion, we did a full walkthrough of the camp, and I mean, everything checks out. It's like almost like a resort camp. It's super nice. There's 2 pools. It's so nice.
Yeah. So $500 you said, like so $100 a night, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Which you're looking at
is a ridiculous value. Breaking that down, for, as you say, for bed, food, entertainment, you're not going to have to spend a lot more beyond that. So that's the value's there.
Yeah, like really, you could spend $500 and a plane ticket down here, and then if you're basically getting an entire vacation for under $700. Like it's a full vacation. You just you don't have to worry about anything. It's like one of those sandals resorts where you just show up and everybody feeds you. They make sure you're good to go, and that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, and even traveling from further afield. So I'm considering Adepticon next year, depending on how much money we've got after wedding and honeymoon and everything else. But flights, you go at the right time, you book at the right time. Flights to America purchased in England aren't massively expensive compared to some other places. But even with Adepticon, I say that hotel room is not cheap. You end up having to share it with at least, I've shared with. There's been 5 of us in that comfortably before.
Oh yeah, that's real.
Yes, it's pretty standard, isn't it? Just to keep those costs down. But then you're buying the food and it's venue food and everything else, so that price is higher than it would be normally. So that value is definitely there and potentially opens it up for Europeans going over as well.
Absolutely, we'd love it, man. We've already got Europeans coming. We're trying to talk some Australians coming. We definitely got Canadians coming over. The guys from the Boys at the Golden Throne podcast are coming over, and so we got a whole bunch of internationals that are making their way in. So it's gonna, man. If you can make the time, I would definitely start budgeting for it. I mean, September 19th to 23rd. Cool. And then if you don't want to do the full 5 days, you can only like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Maybe you can only get that small block open there. I mean. You get a discounted price. We're not going to charge you for the full ticket, so that's $290.
That's cool.
Definitely something to consider. You don't lose a lot of value in there. And we actually have it set up to where the Cult of Paint class, we have because it's a 2-day course, we have a Wednesday, Thursday class for the 5-dayers, which that one's sold out, unfortunately. And then we have a Saturday, Sunday class for all the 3-dayers. So it's 2 separate classes, and I think there's probably like 4 or 5 spots left for the Saturday, Sunday class.
Cool, and that's a very reasonable price for 2 days as well. So September, down your way, what's the weather like?
So we did think about this because Texas is very hot during the summer.
Yeah, I'm very white.
But the good news is, the good news is in September is when everything starts cooling off.
Cool.
So usually like early September is when everything starts cooling off. So we calculated this just right to where the end of September is when things are like naturally cool outside. So I'm trying to think about this. Normally that's about like 75 degrees Fahrenheit in the day to about like 65, 70 at night. So everything really starts to cool off. It's comfortable to sit. I don't know what that is in Celsius for you. I'm trying
to do the maths in my head. I think it's about late teens. So I think, that's pretty good. That's cool because you wouldn't want those Canadians melting when they come down.
Yeah, it's definitely something we consider, like for us, it's naturally comfortable to, like the Australians when they came over for this past Adepticon, they were like, this weather's great. We're like, yeah, it is, right? Because they're used to just the super heat all the time. And, everybody else was like, wow, it's kind of toasty in Texas right now.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Anything else specifically about it you're going to mention? Numbers. How many numbers? That's what I was going to ask.
So the tickets are capped out at 120 tickets is what we're stopped at. Oh, cool. We're well on our way to getting that full 120.
Wow.
We have 22 camp counselors that we have that will be walking around and making sure that everybody's events are going well. That's going to be the people who are running events and everything like that. But that's what we're capped at. Ticket sales end at July 31st. So we will not sell any more tickets after July. We had to meet a minimum number to make sure this happened for the venue, and we've already hit that number.
Awesome.
We're actually well past that number, so
that's awesome.
It's going to happen regardless.
And that's a testament to you guys, I think, and the podcast and the events that you guys run as well in your different areas of the country. So there's to do that with an event like this, with a commitment like this, shows, if anyone listening is thinking about it and doesn't know you guys, it shows that you have to have done well at some point in the past because people don't just support you in those numbers otherwise. So that's always good to reassure people as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things, this isn't our first event that we're running. So us as the Forgotten Legion in Texas, we've ran South Texas in Flames 1, 2, and 3. We've had international people come in for that event as well. And then powerful Ryan Kimmel, has hosted his own number of events with his Circle City Heresy group. He hosted this year's Ascendancy to Ruin event over at Adepticon, which had a number of people, and just hands down, Ryan's tables are insane. Like, this man puts so much work and quality into his tables and how they look and everything like that. So, I mean, Ryan runs some of the best events that I've ever been to. And so, just a culmination of those two groups. And then, of course, you know, you've got John Stanford with the Lone Star Legion guys and John Christensen and all them, Lucas Line. They're all throwing together their Lone Star Legion events, packets, and tables, and they're bringing that down. It's like all these huge groups that we have in America are all coming together and bringing all of their tables and setups and everything like that. So it's going to be probably some of the best terrain you've ever seen at an event this large. I can't imagine I've ever seen anything anywhere else where you have this many tables with this level terrain on them. And I just wish that all your listeners out there and everybody that has heard me talk about this wall that we're getting together, I'm so ready for them to see the wall, but they can't see it yet. They've got to like lose their mind when they see it.
Sure. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds great. If I was over that way, then I'd be on a plane. Unfortunately, that's going to be a rather busy time of the year for me, and I can only go on so many holidays. So it's too much demand, way too much demand. So yeah, no, it sounds wonderful. Is there anything else you think we should mention before we go, or are you pretty much done?
That's going to be it, man. I mean, if you guys want to check it out one last time, it's heresycamp.com or campheresy.com. The website's up. If you go look on there, when you go to the news section, you're going to see all of our Facebook feed in there, and everything that I do work on for the camp, I do post on that Facebook feed. We do have a Facebook group called Heresy Camp. You can go join that. We don't post as much news on there as we actually do on our just live Radio Free Isstvan page.
Sure.
And of course, if you guys haven't listened to our podcast, we actually have a special episode dedicated to Heresy Camp where we kind of go over the same information that I went over on this talk right here. We had a lot less set up whenever we did that, so we probably need to record another one. But all the information you need is going to be on heresycamp.com. And of course, feel free to email me at michael@warhammer30k.com if you have any questions on anything I've talked about. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah.
Doing it right. That's cool. I mean, I've just been to the original Heresy Camp up in Durham. It's a slightly different scale, I will say. And let's say the natural environment is probably a little bit different as well. But but it's all good. There's different events, and you know, any kind of big event like this which has succeeded is going to be great, because I suspect you guys are wanting to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely looking at I mean, once this one's completed, I can already guarantee that we'll be looking into other camps in other areas of the country or things like that to host next year's. I mean, we're not even done with this one, and I've already gotten requests for what 2019 is going to look like.
Isn't that the case? It's
yeah,
always
of
good.
course.
It's a good problem to have. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. And as I say, yeah, go and listen to the guys over at Radio Free Isstvan. Just a word of warning for those who might not be aware, it's not safe for work, as they say. Slightly more adult content, but not as much as some, just so everyone's fully aware of it, that's all. But yeah, you have a good laugh when you record.
Absolutely, guys. We definitely have that age stamp from Apple Podcast on there. It's parental advisory. It is not as friendly, but that's what we do.
It's all good. Awesome. Cheers.
But I appreciate you having me on, Greg. I definitely appreciate you. You letting me shout this out on your podcast.
No, it's great, and particularly these kind of events. It's always hard, I find, with the podcast, because I'm in the southeast of England. You go and shout out an event on a podcast, and your listenership's all around the world. This is an event that you can attend if you are in different parts of the world. Very much so. So
yeah,
I feel it's got good value, and you never know, if it takes off, some other people might leap on the idea as well, and we'll have.
Would love that. Love that.
It's great, and if anyone is listening and thinking something like that, I'm sure you guys would love the opportunity to attend someone else running something like that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Somebody run more events like this so we can just chill.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just drink and have fun.
Awesome. No worries. We'll talk to you again at some point.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
So some of you may be aware that there is a new game app coming called Horus Heresy Legions. Now, Neil and I were invited to be part of the playtest nice and early on, and in fact, that opened up fairly widely, and now there's a full beta playtest, isn't there? Is it on Android or Google?
It's Google Play, so
Play,
it's on Android devices, and for me that's a pain because I have
so
iOS device.
All 10 of you can play it on Google Play, and no, we're it's gone up for beta. It's going to be, what they're doing to make it fair is once the beta happens, once the game launches, it will be reset. So you can't build up before the game actually comes out.
I think I saw a note that's saying that they will port over from the beta. And they change that.
So you can get a massive advantage if you join the beta now.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I misread the initial thing.
Because the closed beta that we're on, they said they wouldn't.
Maybe
they
that's
said
what
that they would on the standard beta. So it's a bit of a pain because I got my son's Amazon Fire Kindle and sort of had to break it and hack it because it doesn't support Google Play. And then I did that, and then I loaded it all, and then started up and went, yep, it's just like the one I've been testing, and sort of played it a bit, and then
yeah, absolutely. When you've got an Apple device, you don't want to go to another device to play a game. So, but it's not been officially launched yet. So that's a fundamentally different thing. So for the people who don't know, what is Horus Heresy Legions? It is a card-based combat game, online. Think Hearthstone, think Magic the Gathering, think any of those. There's a new one's been released, but Hearthstone, if anyone's played that, major similarities. So you build your deck within legions. You choose a leader for your legion, and these are all named. So Tarvitz, Horus, all the Primarchs, and Garrow, and many other. Khan, I think's in there, and Mechanicum ones are in there as well.
There's quite a few of those. There is obviously you start off with Loken though. That's your baseline.
Yeah, and you have to earn them through the packs. So you have a deck of cards that you are given, and you draw a hand at the start of the game, and at the start of each turn, the power of that turn increases. So starting at 2, I think it is, you go up to 10, and you can play cards up to the combined total of the power of turn you're on. Nice and simple. If you've got a 2, 3, and 4 cost card in your hands, turn 2, you can play the turn 2. Turn 3, you can play the turn 3. Turn 4, you can play the turn 4. Turn 10, you can play a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Any combination thereof. Some of the cards also have abilities that utilise that power on as well. So you can deal direct damage from one of your cards, which will cost you, 2 power to do that. Or you can use it to boost your own troops, things like that. That all comes out of the power pool. And the idea is to reduce the enemy commander's hit points to 0. And you can, your commanders are actually on the board. They're playable pieces. So you can attack with them every turn if you want. And depending on which character you have, they will also have a very different ability. So Horus is awesome. So Horus can't be stunned, which means, kind of taken out of the game for the next turn. And he can deal 3 damage to anyone without the need to attack, which is pretty powerful,
Abaddon?
Actually. Sorry?
Do you mean Abaddon?
No, Horus. I actually played Horus today as well.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, Abaddon does similar, not quite as well as Horus. And I've got Tarvitz. He can reduce the cost of cards. The next card that comes out can be reduced by 1, therefore getting you ahead on the curve, as it's called in parlance for these kind of games. And you play units onto the board, and those units have attack and defense values. You can use them to attack and defend. And then there's lots of different skills. So like, what is it? Essentially shield.
Some are frontline troops.
That's the one, frontline troops.
You can't get hit. They have to be attacked first. Some are jetpack troops or flying troops, so they can bypass that. Yeah, and there are there are good, bad. So you've got loyalist and traitor. You've got mechanicum. You've also got legions. So when you set your army up, you will be restricted by what you can have, depending on those things. If you're playing on the bad side, you get marks of chaos, things like that you can put in and stuff like that. And essentially, as you win, you gain loot crates after so many, wins, quests. You gain, I don't know what they're called, coins or whatever, that you can buy more crates with, and those crates are where you get your extra cards. And also where you get your extra heroes to play as well. And also you can use them for cosmetics. So like covers and quotes and all this sort of jazz.
Loads of stuff. Absolutely. And then within all of that, you have lodges that you can make up. So there is an Imperial Truth one. I think it's currently full, actually. So if anyone wants to, when we do the real one, we'll have to see exactly what happens with that. You can go and see all your cards to make your decks. There's the shop for purchasing your crates. Obviously, all these kind of games.
That's what they want.
Yeah, exactly. So you can use your in-game coins, but you can also then go and actually purchase coins. All these games have some way of doing that because that's the way they make money. And then you have the event section. So they will do, the first one they did for us was the Isstvan 3 skirmish, and you pick a side, loyalist or traitor, and whichever side wins, all those people gain benefits, but also I think a card added. So yes, for the Isstvan 3 one, a loyalist win would add the Embers of Isstvan 3, which a card that heals all your other units on your side, and Embers of Isstvan 3 for the traitor side would be it gives a mark of chaos to non-demon troops on your side, one at a time. So they would actually be added to the card pool that you can choose from. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, if you've played Hearthstone, a number of other games like that, there's ranks in this. So as you progress, you earn experience, and you can utilise things like that. But it's not groundbreaking, I will say that. A lot of games do very similar things. It does do some things differently, though. This is not just a reskin of another game. As far as I'm aware, it's not just, we'll throw out a game. They have tried to make it different. And what are your initial thoughts of playing it?
Well, the key thing for me is I'd never played a Hearthstone or any of those other types, so I very much had to pick it up and learn how to play and the nuances of how to play the hands, etc. So it took me a fair bit of time to get the hang of that. But once I did, and I built quite a useful deck, and I'd worked out what worked for me, I was being quite successful. And I found it quite addictive. I was playing it quite a lot and quite enjoyed it. The only issue I found was that all you did in the closed beta was pretty much play robots, play the bots. Yeah. You weren't playing any humans, which meant that they were so predictable in how they would play that it was very easy to beat them. So I think I played an actual person once in the hundreds of games that I've played. So, but playing that one human, but it was actually a lot more enjoyable. So I think that actually once it's released properly, and there's a lot more players out there, that it will be a bit more of an enjoyable experience. Because playing the computer was just a little bit, you knew exactly what was going to happen as soon as you saw their hand, you knew exactly what they would do. So it was very easy to counter it. But it was quite fun. I went through it when I first started, and I was very much sort of like, right, well, it says here if you get 5 marks of chaos, you get a greater demon. So I was really going all out to try and get 5 marks of chaos onto a card. And then I achieved that, and then I started playing around with the demons and seeing how many demons I could get into a force, because the demons had a negative effect to your energy stat. They would
they require an
energy
upkeep.
out. Yeah. So it was that was quite cool. And then obviously, because you're constantly buying packs and crates, and then I got my first Primarch, and then I was like, oh, this is quite cool, play with that. And then the only thing that I was left to do before my account got lost in the ether with an update was there was a special ability that Angron had, and I never got to get it off because it cost 15 energy.
Right.
And of course, the most energy you can have is 10. So by all accounts, you had to get some other cards out that then lowered the energy cost of cards of abilities so that you could then play it. And it was I think it was something to sort of transform Angron into a Demon Primarch.
Demon Primarch. Wow, awesome.
But I never got round to getting it off before my account got sort of lost. So that was one thing I always wanted to try and do. But the only thing I found was there were certain cards that were extremely potent and powerful, and they did get sort of chopped and changed about. I don't know if you were with some of the updates when they'd sort of release a new update. I remember there was one card I had that you put the card out, and then you could basically, as its ability, you could replicate the card, replicate like a little bodyguard. But then in your opponent's turn, all your stats, because its ability was all your defense stats went up, you could make this massive wall of mechanized robots that had massive defense values that were all front line, and nobody could get anywhere near you. So you got this one card out, and it was just then he just started transforming into an army of robots that you did very little to. So you literally got he's like, oh, I've got that card, right, play that card. And 3 turns that I've won.
Yeah, sure,
they could not do anything against you, just kept multiplying. And then I remember they brought out an update, and it was like, yeah, that card doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, and that's nature.
It was like, oh, right, okay, yeah, that's probably right.
And you must remember, and listeners must remember, we were playing the early beta, so that was kind of expected. That not everything would be right. Yes, a lot of what they want us to tell about is what actually breaks the actual app as well. Because when making an app, you do have all these things. But yeah, there is. I'm not the best kind of deck maker. Even in Hearthstone, I get very lazy and can't be bothered. But there's lots of different options out there. There's lots of a decent amount of cards. I do wonder if we're not playing with the full range of cards.
There didn't be huge amounts of cards. No. It seemed to be quite limited. So probably will be more.
So one of the things I found that quite often you'd open a treasure chest, and so a lot of these games now have a method where if you collect extra cards that you've already got, there's some system of getting a reward for that and then utilising that to actually buy specific cards. So you get around the blind collecting thing as well. So in this one, you don't actually, as soon as you get a card you've already got, you actually just get that resource to then go and spend. So you don't even have to faff around with trashing it or dusting it like other games, which is cool, which is fine. But many times you'd open a deck and get 4 cards out that you've already got. It's like, it's quite disappointing. Yeah. But no, that's what it is.
I think I had virtually nearly every card at one stage. I think it was only like a couple of the real high end, like all the Primarch level ones that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And it was a constant. But I remember there was obviously quite a few bugs in I remember opening one deck and it was the same card like 6 times. I'm going, hold on, I don't want that same card over and over again.
Yeah.
And he just got turned into jewels or gems or whatever it was.
And that's fair enough. That will happen, as we say. I'm just looking in the cards section. So we've got, because it's Isstvan 3, we've got Sons of Horus, World Eaters, Emperor's Children, and Death Guard. It's 4 playable factions. And then we have Imperial Army, Mechanicum, and Chaos. And those 3 different sections provide neutral cards that can fit into those other decks, but also can be played basically that way as well. And obviously you can only use demons if you're using traitor.
Yes.
And then, as I say, within that, you've then got different heroes that you can use. And it provides, your hero does change the way you're going to want to build your deck, which I like. Is it Garrow that heals people?
Yes. Is it himself or other people? I can't remember.
He can heal other cards, I think.
That's it.
Yeah. So, that's really cool. Compare that to, as we said earlier, so Khan's very much about dealing damage. Obviously, Target's inspiring other units, bringing them in cheaper, bringing in a big card a turn earlier can make a huge difference in a game. And it provides, you've already got a different style of play between the legions. So Emperor's Children have a rule called Perfection, which when you play a card and it uses up the last of your energy, then you get an additional bonus, which I think is really cool.
Yes.
Representing.
There's some really nice little nuances. It's some bits that I thought, okay, like I remember having Loken and then having loads of demons in my hand and thinking, don't know if this sort of fits. But there was some really nice little touches like the Perfection things for Emperor's Children, all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, and it fits the theme, it works well, makes the game interesting because you need those differences to become interesting. As you say, I like the fact that demons cost upkeep. When you're first playing it, you then have to decide, so you can't just put loads of demons in your deck because you won't have any energy to play any new cards. And that might not be a bad thing if you've got all the awesome demons out. But it might also restrict you in dealing with something the enemy does. So that's kind of cool. And everything you play on your own turn. So there might be stuff that interacts. So there's a trap card in there. Basically, it's like a 0-6/1/6 card. When the enemy plays a card, you deal 6 damage to it and the trap disappears. Actually, that was out before this Hearthstone. There's pretty much exactly the same thing in a secret. That kind of thing is to say, the concepts of what you can do in these games have been thoroughly explored. I'm sure there are small bits and pieces which might be unique to find yet that they can put in, but in general, we understand card games very well now. Magic the Gathering has done a huge amount of stuff, so there's not a huge amount more to explore. But it seems to play very well, actually.
I found it quite enjoyable. I like all the art that they've used in it because they've taken all of the art out of the
Visions of Heresy
book. So there's lots of cool art in it, and even some of the newer art that's come from the covers of some of the novels, like Fulgrim's art is from the Primarch's novel. And things like that. So that's quite cool as well. They've obviously had, I've been allowed to dig through the GW archive and pull out whatever they thought looked cool.
Yeah, there is loads of cool stuff. Say some of it's that kind of old school artwork, which was a little bit funkier compared to some of the stuff that's around now, but also holds a bit of that nostalgia as well, which is good. It's going to be really interesting when it goes live. I might jump back in big. It's hard at the moment knowing that my progress won't go anywhere and knowing that I'm not the best person at kind of judging value and what's really the nuances of what's not working, what needs changing, to then feed back. I've done bits and pieces. Big problem it's going to have is there are these games out there. Hearthstone is huge and it's hard to compete in that environment when you're a very similar style of game. You have got the added advantage of, say, the Heresy being on it, as you will attract Heresy people maybe more. And you can, if they make a good game, that's fine, because people who come in and start playing a game and then look around already have that bit of loyalty. They've built up time in that game and they might stick with it more. If going forwards they fall below that line, then you will lose everyone to a better game. So that's the onus on them, and I'm sure they can do it, because other companies have done it as well. but the bones of it seem to be pretty good.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I did find it, entertaining. It's a great way. What I did like about it was a very easy way to kill 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you could just, if I was on the train or sat and there's an advert break, you could literally pull it out, quick deck, done, and then close it back down again. So I do love a game that is very easy to pick up and drop as well.
Yeah. So, and you can play it that way. Obviously, if you want to be on the top of the leaderboards, you're probably going to be playing this game a lot to try and maintain that. Because as you lose, your rank will drop as well. And that's what you need to do. You need to provide incentive for people to play and to people to win. And that's completely understandable. Have they said anything about a release date? I haven't seen anything about a full release date yet.
I haven't seen anything as yet. And I was actually quite surprised at how long it's taken from the closed beta, which in all intents and purposes felt like a working game. I know that they were tweaking it to now where we've got the open beta, and it feels as though it's like, come on, it's got to be ready by now. You guys can release this, but obviously they've got a schedule or a time frame in mind. Yeah,
I'm sure. And in some ways, that's kind of reassuring that they're not just rushing it through. And obviously, if you do want to kind of get interested in it, you can go and probably what the best thing to do is go and follow their Facebook page, Horus Heresy Legions, because then you'll get all the information from there. You get all the appropriate links. But you can go into your Google Play shop, basically, and search for Horus Heresy Legions, and you can do the same through Apple. Was it through Apple? It's actually there's an app called Test Flight, which runs the whole thing because it's still a beta. So when a new update comes out, you actually have to download through that Test Flight app. Which is cool. It's just to be aware of it. But yeah, it's got some legs, I think. Yeah, I think it was interesting because you remember the previous Heresy game that was released, the sort of the combat-y one. Yeah.
I lost interest in that very, very quickly, mainly because it felt as though it was literally doing the same thing. There was no variety in it at all. I do think
Boom Beach. It was one of those games that are designed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found it quite, I sort of lost interest in it very quickly. And this one, I mean, could go that way if they release regular updates, and I think playing human players is going to be a lot more interesting than playing the computer. I could see it being a good little game just to have on the phone, just to muck about with. And I quite like how they've set it and how they've done the storyline and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good little game to have on the phone. I don't think it's going to change my world, but it's
sure.
It's cool.
It'll be interesting moving forwards because these games live and die by new content coming out and it being good and timely. We have Isstvan 3. We have events that have happened on Isstvan 3, but there are places like Calth mentioned in some of the troops and things like that. I think it would be fairly. It would be difficult. I don't know how they'd do it. It would be interesting to see if they try and expand the legions involved, because you don't have the cards to back up them yet. And if they come out as a season in and of itself, you still would need to be able to draw enough cards to then make those decks worthwhile playing. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that, or whether they just stick around Isstvan and expand on what they've got. I don't really know what their plans are, but that'll be interesting to keep up with.
Definitely.
Excellent stuff. You got anything more you want to add before we head off?
No, not so on the game. Pretty much was just going to wait for it to come out and see where we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the stage I'm at. I've played it enough. As I say, I'm not necessarily brilliant at giving that kind of feedback. I tried to have a look through, and I haven't had that many major issues actually, which is a good sign at the end of the day. And when it comes out, I'm sure I'll get it. No idea whether it will have to pay for it or whether it will be free. I think for the good of the game, the app should be free because others are, and you would lose a lot of traction if you then had to pay for it. I'm sure people would pay for it because of the Heresy name, but you're then limiting yourself to only Heresy fans, and again, that's not good for the longevity of the game. So one would hope that it's a free app.
Yes. Yeah, I'd hope so. I have to wait and see, but I would hope so.
Awesome. All right, we'll take another quick musical interlude. And that's the end of another show. Well done. Congratulations on getting through it. I know this one was a little bit shorter than usual, but with the move and everything else, it just worked out that way. And the topics we had for this one, don't worry, we'll be getting back to our normal mad ramblings, I'm sure, in the future. So if you have any feedback about the show, don't hesitate. In fact, before we get into that, London Heresy. So if you are coming to the London Heresy, a quick reminder, I think lists are due at the end of the month. Please double check your pack. All the links are on LGT Presents and in the show notes. I'll try and put them in there, and go to the Facebook group. All the links are there. I just saw Chris Legg mention that he was trying to shave his list down to just fit it under 2,500 points, and in a quick reread realised that he could have 3,000. So, always helps to read the pack.
No one ever reads the pack.
No, absolutely, they don't. It's a pain, and I'm just kind of finalising a few things in my head after the trip up to Durham. Things like how army selection's done when you get to the table, because there are two lists. So I'm thinking that maybe we give playing cards out with A and B written on them, and everyone has to you put yours down, face down, and then flip it over to show you what you're playing. Something like that, so that sometimes you're influenced by what the other person can put on the table, and you think, I'll bring that instead. I don't know if I need that or not. I don't know if I let just players work it out and say, well, if you bring that, I'll bring this because that'll make a better game. Whether people will do it, maybe I can give the option. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and also with that A and B thing, it could be a policing thing that maybe that isn't needed or goes too far. Where if someone actually wants to play with list B and they pull card A, actually,
yeah. I mean, I would hope it wouldn't be needed. There is a case that maybe someone's which list you playing, waiting to find out before they put their list down. It's potential. Yes, yeah. I can just see people, I've lost my cards or whatever. So I was thinking about doing it with a dice, odds and evens or what have you. But that's something to think about. What happens at the end of the day will be, I think this event, I'm going to spend so much time walking around the tables during the games that trying to make sure everything's kind of going, looking at what people have bought and how they're playing it and stuff like that, trying to influence what's going on. But we'll see. I've got plenty to work on in the next few weeks to get ready for that, but really looking forward to it. In fact, the whole event now, really looking forward to it. It'd be good just to get to the venue and see the venue and see how everyone else is set up. And
I'm quite excited to see what it's going to be like in the London Stadium.
So am I.
It's going to be interesting because I've only been there, I think, for one West Ham game. I don't think I've actually looked around it much. So it'd be interesting to see where it is and how it works and the layout, all that sort of stuff.
And I've never been. We've got a load of people coming from the club, but they're all playing different games, and I think only one of them might be playing Heresy, if that. So, it's just the way it goes.
It's a much bigger event now, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
than last year. It should be exciting. Yeah, absolutely. We've got one guy who's never played a 40k tournament. So he's like, well, I want to experience it. And I'm like, well, second day, if you want to drop out and come play Heresy, we can make some space. And some others have decided to jump on the 40k because it's new and fresh, and some are playing Age of Sigmar. And
if I was coming,
at least there'll be plenty. At least there'll be plenty to look at as well.
Yeah, and that's
it's good when you get a mixed event because you do go, well, I'm playing my Heresy, but I can go and have a nosy over. In our break, I can go and have a look at all the 40k players or all the Age of Sigmar players and see what's going on, rather than everyone stops at the same time and you're just caught up in this sort of melee of what you're doing. Yeah,
well, I want to try and get a little bit of time to go and look at some of the smaller systems that are being played and the big Mario Kart table that's going to be there as well, because that is awesome. So, yeah, there's so much stuff, and that's without, I'm not going to be able to go to any of the paint classes or...
Yeah,
you go try and look at the
painter there doing their stuff.
Yeah, the paint competition as well. Go and look and see what's entered into that. Are you going to bring something for that?
I need to check the rules out.
Yeah, maybe worth doing.
Might be worth doing.
It's good. It's cool. It's got an exciting buzz around it. It really has this year, which is always good.
Sounds good.
Not doing bad for their third event. In the third year of the event, should I say? So, that's excellent. Okay, so getting back to all the usual stuff. If you've got any feedback, you want to contact us, ask us questions, what have you, Greg at theimperialtruth.com.
And I'm on Neil at theimperialtruth.com.
And you can follow us on all our social medias. So Neil Paints for everything, pretty much. And Child of Fang for most things. And also Imperial_Truth for the show's Twitter, and go and find Imperial Truth on Facebook. We have the two groups, so the group and the page. Feel free. Rob's been back from holiday. He's been posting up some stuff on the page. It's quite interesting to see what people have been up to with their weekends, should I say. So my hobby this weekend has been packing models away. Not quite as fun, but it's all good, isn't it?
What you do there is you put things away and go, oh, I forgot I had that.
No, that's when I get it out of storage. Or the stuff I've stored at work, or the stuff I need to sell. I think there's the local club in Eastbourne have planned a bring and buy for one of their club nights, which is good. And I'm going to try and organise one for the summer for our club in Tunbridge Wells as well. Just to kind of like, I own this stuff, please take some off my hands. Yeah. The worry with those is always that you go and then find more stuff on other people's tables than you get rid of.
Yes, that is a distinct problem, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty standard. But, it's good to do. Even I've got to sit down at work at some point and spend some time when I'm in the watchroom, de-spruing like weapons and selling them in bags of fives on eBay, that kind of thing. I've got a bit of time that I can do that if I'm monitoring the radio at work, things like that. So it's one of those jobs that then becomes worthwhile. If it was time I could spend hobbying or do that at home, maybe that becomes a different issue. But if I can fit it in and around what I'm doing, lunch breaks and whatever, then it becomes valuable. But might as well get some money back on that hobby before you plough way more into it.
Definitely.
It's all good fun, isn't it?
It helps.
If you like the show and you believe that we deserve a little tip here and there, then you can go to Patreon and support the show. I finally sent out the poster, so there's a poster making its way across the English Channel, that Gaunt poster, which is awesome, and we're going to do... be a little while yet. I want to space out the giveaways because otherwise it's just going to cost more money than the Patreon brings in. But that's it's cool. It's been good doing that kind of stuff, and we're going to try and organise a date for getting Neil on the camera and having to hang out.
I've still got to do that as well.
We have
amazing stuff you've got to get done.
It's just amazing how quickly it goes by. Have you done any more Instagramming?
I've done a bit. I've done little bits and bobs. I haven't done anything major. It's one of those things. I want to post up more shots of me doing my apothecary, but where I often then will work a bit but won't be happy with it because I know I want to rework it, I then don't want to take a photo of it because I know I've not got to a point where I can say that part is done and put a photo up. So I often will just delay taking a photo, and then suddenly you'll see it jump on probably massively over from one post to the next. But I'm sort of at a stage where I'm still playing around with things, and I don't like putting photos up until I know it's right-ish.
No, that's fair enough.
I don't want to do it and then go and rework it and go, but didn't you just show us a photo of that leg? Yeah, well, I redid the leg. And
All good. All good. Right, well, I think we've pretty much made it to the end of the show then. Unless you've got anything more you wish to add, Neil.
Nothing from me.
Awesome. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.